Drop in fertility and impact on the economy. I have zero evidence on this other than comments from friends and randoms online, but it feels like a significant number of people are thinking seriously about whether or not to have kids with the direction of changes in climate, etc. Obviously, a drop in children will have pretty serious implications for economic growth, property prices, government revenue, etc. What's your thoughts? Is this actually a thing? Have you or your significant other, friends discussed families, future, etc. with what might be happening to the world in mind? Is it just paranoia? Wouldn't be hard to find it on ABS, but yet the birth rate in Australia and several other Western countries has been on the decline for some time now. You are also right, it can create issues down the track for the economy. Easy fix for the government? Immigration. Hence we are having large influx of immigrants right now. We just import fully formed and educated workers instead now. It is much more efficient. Saves 21 years of spending on their development and training. My friends are still having kids, but less, and mostly due to house prices, and can't afford to upgrade to have more kids. We would love 3 kids, but absolutely cannot afford the time off work, the car to fit them in, and a house where we aren't sitting on top of each other. Plus we had kids late due to getting career sorted, housing, life, then add on fertility issues. Any drop in birth rates will be taken up by increased immigration. That is the official strategy. My partner and I would be considered at the age. We're thinking of adopting instead of having biological children because of the climate. Why bring another child into the world when there are so many who grow up in foster care the system? Firstly, this is a worldwide phenomenon. 95 countries have a consistently long-term signifier fall in fertility rate. Look up birth gauge on Twitter. Secondly, its causes are complex mix of economic, cultural and sociological. Finances are a big part, especially housing costs. People might laugh at this prediction, but I think Australia's TFR will fall below Japan's by 2040. Depends on your social circle, but yes, definitely a thing. I'm not having children. Climate change is one of 100 good reasons. IDK maybe when the Tesla robot replaces many workers we'll have to rethink capitalism and GDP, and how it relates to inequality and living standards. Maybe fertility may increase. Yep, don't want kids, and a lot of it is due to how screwed the world will be for the next generation. Me and my wife are approaching 40 and have decided not to have kids, for many reasons, not just climate change stuff, but we are not the norm out of people I know. Most have 1, maybe 2 kids. The bigger issue for population growth than no kids is people having too few kids. People having 1 kid is still a decline in population, but the government seems fine with using immigration to cover the shortfall. The climate issue, and also it just doesn't seem fun. Drop in fertility is definitely an issue. Most of my friends have needed to use IVF services to conceive. And these people were in their early to mid-30s. Also throw in some surrogates for the more wealthier people I know. Now, with birth rate, having a single child is the most common. Then it's the whole hog of 3 or more. This is Australia, mate. We'll just chuck in another 550k immigrants next year. Should property prices not go up by at least 10, and rents by 20. I can't afford children, and by the time I can, I'll be too impatient to deal with them. Not to mention the state of our education system and the negative influences they will have throughout their schooling. Both major concerns of mine personally, having been a teacher. It'll definitely have the impacts you say, but overall quality of life will improve as we'll have to move from a house worth money economy to one where people actually provide meaningful services and make useful things. Without a very healthy housing supply, immigration to cover low fertility is the ultimate Ponzi. Immigration increases housing costs, decreasing fertility. For example, Canada just announced today that births fell 5.0 in 2022. Overall number of births lowest since 2010 despite massive population growth. 100 a thing. Fertility rate about 1.7, on a downward long trend. Defo an impact on GDP, which can only be fixed 4 ways. 1. Get people to live longer, hard, marginal increment. 2. Import people, immigration. Tick. 3. Increase prices. Well, tick. Forget people to consume more. Not tick right now. But let's face it, within 25-30 years, we will be in a long-term, permanent, global recession degrowth due to combination of population decrease and lesser availability more expensive energy. Inevitable. Check out the documentary Birth Gap. People are freaking out. Population decline is unavoidable with the current birth rates. The economy will have to shift from capitalism because it is hard to have ever-growing economy if the market is shrinking every year. This will require a mindset change to how countries are governed and how people invest, but it will not be the end of the world. Opening scene of Idiocracy should be mandatory viewing. Well, sure, combined with people just having higher expectation standards of themselves and a partner. Most of us would like to have our children have at least as good an upbringing as we had, so if people don't think they can do that, either financially or parenting skills-wise, they have fewer kids or no kids at all. Added to that, is that it's much more socially and economically practical for women to stay single than it was 1-2 generations ago. Definitely not. We are a multicultural country, we can adjust the number of visas and citizenships to match the loss of babies. There is no way they gov would let property prices drop, ha. China's fertility rate is going to be diabolical for our country's economy. With their current birth rate, their population is going to halve by 2100. And along with that goes the demand for our resources. I know it's a far stretch to predict 77 years into the future and things may change, but things will be very different going forward. I was planning on having children, but we're seriously reconsidering moving or having kids given cost of living and more importantly social isolation. I don't have a large support group, and the way mothers are expected to be laser-focused staring at their kids every second until they're 18, instead of having a bit of support from other people in their community and kids gaining a bit of independence in their teen years, I don't think I can do it. We had kids before we got too old but hadn't bought a house yet. Now getting a loan while paying double childcare. Ouch. Capitalism is breaking. Don't worry, we will have millions of climate resumes wanting to get in soon enough. I'm child-free. Nothing to do with climate change. I have kids, but I can understand why people don't want to have their own. It's a symptom of broken system. Low pay or stress about job security, housing prices, expensive childcare. Not to mention climate breakdown. People are worried about what kind of future our kids might face. Why risk bringing a child into that? Immigration will take up any slack in the system until we come up with something new. That's why the government has welcomed the idea of introducing immigrants to come in the country to help deal with the aging population. So in the long run nothing will change, we will just have kids from different cultures and countries growing up all together. Young families are stimulatory to the economy. They also improve productivity as people have incentive to strive for promotion and per individual working need to provide more. They also require longer-term infrastructure pipelines. Multi-generational activities, schools, also provide cheap labor as they are a fraction of adult minimum wage. Instead we import adults, get them to overpay for accounting degrees, and then get them to be exploited by Uber who does not pay local taxes in line with the revenue. X200B. Good times. Alongside this, I have been thinking lately. When I lived in Japan circa 2014-2019 I hardly saw any pregnant women. This is as their population crisis was supposedly really ramping up. Now, when I look around I hardly see any pregnant women here either. The whole world narrative since 2000 has been to push people away from having children. All these childless people think they arrived to the decision not to have kids, but in reality, they've been actively pushed into that lane by pop culture. Slightly serious shitpost: if you want to increase the fertility rate, remove sex education in schools. The intention being to increase the rate of teenage mothers, being a fifth of what it was in the 1970s. Secondly, increase the baby bonus to something ridiculous like $50,000. Enough that someone could live off it most of the way for a house deposit. Third, I don't know.